guys, welcome to Telling the Told and Untold. My name is Tshego. Before we go straight into today's case, I do have a content warning for you guys. In this video, we do talk about suicide. So if that's not something you think you're interested in watching, then this video probably isn't for you. So maybe you can go watch some of my other videos or just wait for my next upload. There are also little to no pictures of the people involved in this case, so I do apologize for that. On the 14th of September 2002, 59-year-old Rhada Govender had been found in her bed in her home on Bombay Road, Northdale in Pietermaritzburg, and she had been strangled and her throat had been slit. It was initially believed that Rhada had been strangled in her sleep because there were no defensive wounds, and the Govender family was extremely devastated. But in the same breath, they were relieved because Rhada lived with her two grandchildren, a 12-year-old girl and a 6-year-old boy, and both of them were unharmed. Soon, police officers began their investigation, and it led them to two men within days, Vusimusi Shabalala and Sipho Hadebe. Both men were in their 30s and had no prior arrests or convictions. We're not too sure how they found the two men, but it is believed they found them when they tried to sell some of the items that they had taken from the Govender house. Inspector Paledi then questioned the two men, and the story they told completely took him by surprise. The two men hadn't broken into the Govender home. They had been let in. Vusimusi and Sipho told the detective how on the night of the 14th of September at around 8 p.m. they were completely intoxicated and they had been approached by this girl. This girl was crying, she was hysterical, and she was holding a picture. She showed the men the picture and she explained that the man and woman in the picture were her parents and they had been murdered. She then asked the men if they could kill the evil woman that had had her parents murdered. She told the two men that she needed help in avenging her parents' death, and told the men that asked the men if they could go with her to this house that this evil woman stayed in, and then told them that after they killed this woman that they could take anything that they wanted in the house. She told the men how there was jewelry and literally just anything they wanted they could take as long as they killed this evil woman. She also told the men that it would be easy to kill this woman because she had drugged her, so she wouldn't be able to put up a fight. And to seal the deal, she then told the two men that after they killed this evil woman, then she would have sex with both of them. The men then asked her how old she was because she seemed so small, but the way she spoke, she seemed mature. She seemed like she was 18 years old at least. The men remember this young girl walking them to this house that this evil woman stayed in and her walking to her bedroom and opening the door. The men claimed that this girl gave them both knives and told them to stab this evil woman. And the men didn't stab her, but this is when Sipho just straddled Rhada and strangled her. He just put his arms around her neck and squeezed until she lost her life. After this, the men say that the young girl was not happy, she was not impressed, and then she told the men that they should slit this woman's throat. It is believed that Vusimusi is the one that took the knife and slit Rhada's throat. After this, the young girl walked around the house and she gave them various things. She gave them jewelry, clothes, a video recorder, as well as a decoder recorder. The men then left, and it turned out that the young girl who had approached them crying, who was hysterical and claimed that this evil woman had her parents killed, wasn't some 18-year-old girl. It was Rhada's own granddaughter, her 12-year-old granddaughter. Although this case took place over 22 years ago, the offender's name has never been said ever, and this is because the court says so. The court denies that her name be made public, and this is because she was a child at the time of this case. She was 12 years old, and according to South Africa's child protection laws, an offender or a victim who is a minor at the time of committing a crime or having a crime committed against them has their identity protected. And that is why for the rest of this video, I will be referring to Rhada's granddaughter as Mira, but Mira is not her real name. Mira was born in either 1989 or 1990, and when she was younger, her parents did get a divorce. Mira and her younger brother then lived with Mira's mother as well as Mira's stepfather, but it's said that Mira didn't get along well with her stepfather, and because of this, her and her younger brother then moved in with their grandmother, Radha Govender. Rhada was described as a successful businesswoman, a millionaire, a socialite, and her businesses made her wealthy. She was just a very wealthy woman, but besides that, she was someone who loved her children, and even more than that, she loved her grandchildren. Mira's father was her son, and unfortunately, when Mira was just 11 years old, her father took his own life. It's said that the reason why he did this is because once he got a divorce from Mira's mother, he just spiraled into depression and just took his own life. It's also believed that Rhada did not like Mira's mother, mostly because of the divorce and how after the divorce her son just spiraled. But Mira would also say that her grandmother had told her that just a couple of days before her father took his own life, Rhada had told her son that the person that he had known as his biological father was not his real father. And it is believed that maybe this also contributed to this downward spiral. Mira was not coping well at her grandmother's house, and this really didn't reflect in relationships that she had, like with her friends and family, and even in her schoolwork. She still really excelled, but Mira and her grandmother weren't getting along, and this was mainly because 12-year-old Mira was dating a 20-year-old man. And again, there's a lot to unpack about a 20-year-old man dating someone who is 12 years old, because they literally have nothing in common. She's in primary school and he's probably in university, he's probably matriculated. There's just like two completely different things. And Mira would spend a lot of time talking to her boyfriend. They would be on the phone for hours, and Rhada didn't really like this because not only was Mira with this man that was 8 years her senior, but she would spend hours on the phone, and this would make the phone bill go up so much. There was 1 month where Mira had spent about 2,000 rand, or rather racked up a bill of 2,000 rand of the phone bill, and Rhada was just not impressed. Mira would also claim that her grandmother made her life a living hell. Mira said that Rhada did not like Mira's mother, and that sometimes she would see her grandmother like on her knees with a candle lit, praying for Mira's mother to die. Mira also claims that there was one time where she threatened to leave her grandmother's house, and her grandmother told her that she couldn't leave, and if she even tried to leave, she would scar her face so that she wouldn't be able to leave the house. Despite Mira's claims about her grandmother, outsiders would say that they had no idea that there were any problems in the home, and that Mira had expressed on several occasions that she loved her grandmother and she loved living with her. She loved living with her grandmother more than she loved living with her own mother. After Rhada's murder, her body had been taken for an autopsy, and a pathologist did determine that her cause of death was asphyxiation, which corroborated Sipho and Vusimusi's story. And after them telling the detective this story about how this young girl had approached them, the two men were then charged with murder and theft. On the 2nd of October 2002, Sipho Hadebe and Vusimusi Shabalala pled guilty to the murder and the theft, and their plea statements revealed the involvement of a young girl to everyone who was in court that day. And after this, Mira and her younger brother, who were now living with her mother, had a knock on the door, and it was Rhada's friends and family, and they were so upset to hear that Mira had something to do with Rhada's murder. And because of this, it's alleged that they basically just beat her up. The next day, Sipho and Vusimusi had their sentencing, and the judge just told the two men that there was something really wrong if there were these two men who had no prior arrests or convictions, who could be swayed to take a stranger's life by some random girl that they didn't know. And after this, Vusimusi James Shabalala and Sipho Elliot Hadebe were both sentenced to 25 years each in prison for the murder of Radha Govender. The next day, Mira would have her day in court in the Pietermaritzburg Magistrates Court for the first time where she appeared. She was facing the same charges as Vusimusi and Sipho, and the public suddenly became aware that there was far more to this robbery that had gone wrong. Mira was held in custody for her own safety because they really thought that if she went home, maybe her family members would try and assault her again. And Mira's mother agreed that this was for the best because she claimed that she worked long hours, so she wouldn't be able to just keep an eye out on Mira and make sure that nothing else happened. Mira was held in police custody for a few days, from the 4th to the 10th of October. And even though Mira had never indicated before that she had anything to do with her grandmother's murder, once she heard that Vusimusi and Sipho were going to be testifying against her, Mira admitted her involvement. But in her version though, she was a pawn. Mira claims that she had been approached by her aunt's partner, Govender. And her aunt was Rhada's daughter, so her dad's sister. Mira claims that Govender had approached her and told her that she had to have Rhada killed, and he wanted to have Rhada killed because he owed her money, and he also claimed that she had been the reason why he and her daughter's relationship did not last. But once they looked into this, they kind of thought that it was a bit strange that Mira would claim this, because Rhada had borrowed money 10 years ago, 10 years before her murder, and Mira claimed that the day before, Rhada had asked Dash for this money. And they also discovered that Dash and Dr. Shane Govender had been broken up for almost 8 years. So why would he blame Rhada for their failed relationship 8 years later? Mira also claimed that Dash told her that if she did not get Rhada killed, then Rhada would kill Mira's mother and her younger brother. But they also looked into this and they didn't think that was true because Dash hadn't really been a part of the family that much. So how would he know about Mira's claims that Rhada did not like her mother? And with all of this, the judge basically just rejected Mira's statement about having been a pawn in Dash's revenge plot. And after the judge rejected Mira's story, this is when Mira said that the two men, Sipho and Vusimusi, were telling the truth and that she had approached them. But she says that she didn't ask the men to slit Rhada's throat, and she says that they had done that on their own accord. They also discovered that after the two men had murdered Rhada, Mira led her 6-year-old younger brother into the room to see their deceased grandmother. It also came out that after the two men had left the Govender house, Mira had called her 20-year-old boyfriend. Not the police or anything, her 20-year-old boyfriend. We're not too sure what they spoke about, but it is believed that maybe she called him to kind of establish an alibi. In South Africa at the time of today's case, if you were younger than 10 years old, you were considered not to have criminal capacity, which means that if someone is 10 years or younger and they commit a crime, they cannot be prosecuted. The law also stated that the state has to consider the capacity of a child up to the age of 14. So in 2002, if you're younger than 10, you automatically were not criminally responsible. But if you were between the ages of 10 and 14, you had to prove that you were not criminally responsible. I hope that makes sense. So basically, in Mira's case, Mira was 12 years old when she committed this terrible crime. So they had to determine if she was criminally responsible or not. And they determined that she was criminally responsible. And one of the reasons why was because it was said that she seemed really mature for her age. Remember, she was only 12 years old, but both Vusimusi and Sipho said that when she approached them, the way she carried herself, the way she spoke like she was at least 18 years old. The courts determined that Mira was criminally responsible, and 2 years after having had her grandmother murdered, Mira was found guilty. And this is when Mira became South Africa's youngest female killer. Prior to that, the title belonged to Marlene Lindbergh, the so-called scissors murderess who went on trial when she was just 19 years old in 1976. And if you guys want me to cover that case, please just let me know in the comments. When the judge began his judgment, Mira shed a few tears, and once she heard her future, she completely broke down. And after this, Mira got up and she went to Woodland Secondary School to write her grade 9 exams. And it said that things at Woodland Secondary School was completely normal, and people said that she was just a child and she showed remorse, so there's really nothing that they could do, and they said that she deserved to write exams alongside everyone else. And Mira did really well in her grade 9 exams. She passed with flying colors. Mira's initial sentence was non-custodial, meaning that she was not going to see a prison cell, and she would basically be on house arrest for 36 months. But these 36 months had a couple of rules that she had to abide by. First of all, she was only allowed to go to school, and she was only allowed to leave the house to go to certain school events. She had to attend therapy, she had to complete community service, and she was also allowed to have phone calls with people, but not just anyone. It was a list of people that she was allowed to call, And it wasn't every day. There were certain days where she was allowed to call them, and this list had to be approved by the courts. But after a couple of months, they received several phone calls that Mira was not following the requirements of the house arrest. And because of this, the state appealed to the Court of Appeals for reconsideration of the sentence, and then in December 2005, Mira's sentence was reviewed, and in addition to the 36 months house arrest, she was also given a 7-year sentence of imprisonment, which was suspended for 5 years. Meaning that if Mira committed a violent crime within 5 years, then she would be sentenced for 7 years for the murder of her grandmother and would have to go to jail for this. But if she didn't commit a violent crime within those 5 years, then after that she was completely free. And this is exactly what happened. From 2009, Mira did not have a suspended sentence nor house arrest to worry about anymore. And Rhada's family were completely devastated and angry about the sentence that Mira got. And they basically just cut Mira off. They cut off Mira's mother as well as Mira's brother. And then in 2011, Mira made headlines again in a KZN newspaper. She was 21 years old and she was expecting a child with her boyfriend, a man whose father is well known in the taxi industry. And Mira said, and I quote, "I've paid for what I've done. I know deep in my heart that I've done my best to pay for my wrongdoing. All I want is for people to leave me to live my life." She also said, "I've tried to put it behind me. I was young and I'm a lot more mature now. I deserve a second chance like everyone else. At the end of it all, my child must not be haunted by what I've done. The baby deserves a fair chance in life." And that's it for today's case. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It helps out my channel a lot. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.